I never meant to get used to the routine, but it happened anyway. Same corner coffee shop, same chipped mug the barista never replaced, same quiet stretch before work when the city hadn't decided whether it wanted to be loud yet. I'd sit by the window, pretending to scroll through my phone, though most mornings I'd just let the screen go dark. She started coming in about 3 months ago. Always a little after me. Always the same order, black coffee, no sugar. I noticed because she didn't check the menu, not once. Just walked up, spoke like she'd already rehearsed it, then leaned against the counter while they made it. Not impatient, not hurried, just steady. We worked in the same building. Different floors, different worlds. She was mid-40s, maybe. The kind of presence that didn't need to fill silence, but somehow did. I'm 23, the kind of guy who still overthinks what to say after hi. The first words between us weren't anything special. She'd caught me glancing one morning, too long, probably. She didn't look away. She said, softly, "You're nervous." And before I could stop myself, I blurted, "Only because you're stunning." It wasn't planned. Definitely not smooth. My voice cracked on stunning. She blinked once, like she was deciding what to do with the words I'd just thrown in her lap. Then she gave the smallest smile, more in her eyes than her mouth, and carried her cup out the door. That should have been the end. But it wasn't. After that morning, something shifted. She'd nod if she saw me, sometimes even pause by my table to ask if the coffee was strong enough today. The kind of light question that doesn't matter but sticks with you. I found myself rehearsing answers, then forgetting them the second she looked at me. I noticed small things. The way she folded her napkin neatly in half, even if she wasn't going to use it. The way she tapped her thumb against her cup while listening to someone. I'd catch myself staring, then pretend to check the headlines on my phone, though the screen was still locked. She never lingered too long. But she left traces. A faint perfume that outlasted her. The echo of her voice when I replayed it in my head at night. Loneliness doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes it's just the empty draft message you never send, sitting in your phone at 1 a.m. Sometimes it's realizing you haven't been touched in months, not even casually, not even a shoulder brush in a crowded hallway. I tell myself she was just being kind, that she probably smiled at everyone like that I was imagining more in the pauses than there was. But then I'd remember her words. "You're nervous." She hadn't said it like a question. She'd said it like she knew. This morning was no different. Same table, same mug. She walked in, nodded at me, and ordered without glancing up. When her coffee was ready, she didn't leave. She walked over, set her cup down at my table, and sat across from me. I almost laughed, out of nerves, out of disbelief. But she spoke first. "You're earlier than usual today," she said, folding her napkin into a smaller square. I shrugged, fiddling with the handle of my mug. Couldn't sleep. Her eyes flicked toward me, steady, unreadable. Just that. No follow-up. The silence stretched, not uncomfortable, just full. When she finally stood to go, she left her folded napkin behind. I stared at it long after she left, like it was proof that something had happened, even if I couldn't name what. By the time I got up, my phone buzzed. A new message, unknown number. Just 5 words. Tomorrow. Same time. Coffee. And my chest tightened. Half dread, half something I didn't have the courage to call hope. The text felt heavier than it should have. Just a simple invitation, nothing dramatic. But I read it 10 times before replying, then set my phone down without answering at all. Still, I showed up. She was already there, waiting with her coffee. She didn't seem surprised to see me, just tilted her head in a small nod, like she'd known I would come even when I hadn't. We sat in the same corner. No one paid us any attention, but I couldn't shake the thought that someone might. That someone from the office could walk in and wonder why a 23-year-old kid was sitting across from a woman in her mid-40s, their cups tilted toward each other like a secret. She spoke first, breaking the silence. "I was divorced 5 years ago. Thought I'd get used to it by now." Her voice was casual, but her hand tightened slightly around her mug. I didn't know what to say. My mind threw out useless responses. "I'm sorry, that must have been hard," but none of them felt right. So I just said, "Do you miss it?" Her eyes flicked to me, sharper than I expected, then softened. Not him. Just the idea of being known. You know, I nodded, even though I didn't, not fully. My longest relationship had been 7 months, and even that had been half texting, half drifting. But I understood the way her voice dipped on the word known. I wanted to tell her something in return, something that mattered. What came out was, "I almost texted you back last night." Wrote a dozen drafts, deleted them all. That earned the smallest curve of her mouth. And here you are anyway. It wasn't a question. For a while we didn't talk. Just sat there, sipping. The silence wasn't empty. It had a pulse. I noticed the tiny scar on her left knuckle, like a pale half moon. The way her thumb kept circling the rim of her cup. I imagined asking about it. Imagined her brushing it off with a quick story. Imagined myself holding that hand across the table. I shook the thought away. This was risky. Too risky. She was twice my age, my coworker, someone who should have stayed a nod in the hallway. But she wasn't. Not anymore. When the conversation started again, it was lighter. She asked if I'd eaten breakfast, teased me for drinking too much coffee, told me I looked like I hadn't slept. I found myself smiling, actually smiling, in a way I hadn't in weeks. And then it happened, barely a thing at all. I dropped my spoon, clattering against the table. She reached across, steadying it before it rolled to the floor. Her fingers brushed mine. Quick, casual, almost nothing. But I felt it long after she pulled her hand back. That moment stayed with me. Not because of the touch itself, but because of the quiet way she didn't make it a big deal. Like she was letting me decide what it meant. I still don't know why, but sitting there across from her, I had the thought, maybe this is what it feels like to finally be seen. The next time wasn't planned. At least, not by me. I'd gone down to the lobby for a late coffee break, the kind you take just to step away from your desk. She was there, waiting on an elevator. Paper files tucked against her chest, a pin caught in her hair like she'd forgotten it was there. I almost turned back. But she noticed me. A small smile, quiet. Like a secret only I could see. We rode up together. Neither of us spoke at first. Just the low hum of the elevator. My pulse felt too loud, like it belonged to someone else. Halfway up, she said, "You shouldn't linger around me too much." Her voice even, not harsh. A warning dressed as advice. I managed a crooked laugh. Why? She turned her head, eyes on the numbers flicking above the door. Because people notice things. The words hung there. People notice. The way we sit too close in the cafe. The way my eyes follow her in meetings. The way silence stretches between us longer than it should. I wanted to say it didn't matter. But it did. When the elevator doors slid open, a coworker stepped in. I watched her shift away from me, just slightly. Enough. The space between us widened. She left on the next floor without another glance back. It should have been nothing. Just timing, just coincidence. But the distance stayed with me. Later that week, I found her outside the building, crouched to fix a strap on her shoe. It was dusk, sky fading into muted colors, and the office windows reflected everything twice over. "Need help?" I asked, half joking. She looked up, hair loose now, no pen. "I can manage." Still, she let me wait while she adjusted the strap. We walked a few blocks together. Small talk. Weather, grocery sales, the kind of lines that mean nothing but keep you from saying what you're really thinking. At one crosswalk, she stopped mid-sentence. I followed her gaze, someone from her department across the street, waving. She lifted her hand, smiled, but it wasn't the same smile she gave me. Lighter, practiced. When the light changed, she touched my arm, a quick press of fingers. "Go ahead. I'll catch up." I went, even though every step felt wrong. That night, I replayed it. The brush of her hand. The distance she kept. The way she could shift between letting me in and shutting me out with just a look. And yet, 2 nights later, the cafe again. She slid into the seat across from me. No preamble. Just her eyes on mine, searching, unreadable. "You're quiet today," she said. I shrugged. "So are you." Silence again, heavy. I noticed her breathing, the way her lips parted just slightly, like she might say something else. And I almost leaned in. just enough that the air between us changed. Her gaze flicked down, then back up. But then the bell above the door rang. Someone came in, laughter too loud, breaking whatever was about to happen. We both leaned back, pretended nothing had. Still, the ghost of that almost lingered, more dangerous than if it had actually happened. It was late, the kind of evening when the city feels emptied out. Most of the office lights had gone dark, but hers was still on. I saw it from the street when I stepped outside to clear my head. Without thinking, I went back in. She was packing up, papers stacked in careful piles, coat draped over the chair. I hovered at the doorway like I needed permission. "You should be home," I said. Her head lifted. A pause. "So should you." I crossed the room, sat down in the chair across from her desk. Neither of us moved for a while. Just the faint hum of the building's heating system. Finally, she sighed. "You're making this harder than it should be." My stomach tightened. What am I making harder? Her eyes flicked to mine, then away. Boundaries. That word. It landed like a stone. I wanted to joke, to lighten it, but the words didn't come. Instead I said, softer than I meant to, "So you've thought about it too." She froze, just slightly, like she hadn't meant to give anything away. The silence stretched. I picked up one of the pens from her desk, rolled it between my fingers. Anything to stop my hands from shaking. "You're young," she said finally, voice measured. "And I'm not." It wasn't cruel. It was tired. "I don't care about that." The words slipped out before I could soften them. Her laugh was small, but not amused. "You should." We sat in it. The weight of it. I remembered the coworker waving at her on the street. How easily she'd slipped into that other smile. The kind meant for the world, not for me. Something broke open in my chest. "Do you ever?" I started, then stopped. My throat felt too tight. Her eyes met mine again, steady now. "Ever what?" I swallowed. "Do you ever feel like you're lonely? Even when you're surrounded by people?" Her hand stilled on the stack of papers. She didn't answer right away. Just looked at me, searching, as if weighing how much truth to give. Finally, all the time. Something in her voice made it hard to breathe. I wanted to tell her everything then. That she was the only part of my day that felt alive. That I replayed every glance, every word. But I didn't. Instead, I said, "I don't want to be just another person who notices you from across the room." That landed. Her face shifted, something soft breaking through. She reached for her coat, paused halfway, then let it fall back onto the chair. We sat there, both caught in a space neither of us had intended to enter. Her lips parted, like she might speak, or maybe not. My heart hammered. The room held its breath. And then she asked, quietly, almost too quietly, "What are you really asking me?" The next morning, she wasn't at the cafe. I told myself she was just running late, maybe caught in traffic. But when my coffee cooled untouched and the bell above the door never rang, the table across from me felt louder than the rest of the shop. It happened again the following day. No sign of her. Not at her usual table, not in the lobby, not in the hallways at work. I caught myself staring at the elevator doors like they owed me something. By the third day, I gave up pretending not to care. I walked by her office under the excuse of dropping paperwork, but her door was shut, blinds drawn. Something had shifted. When I finally did see her, it wasn't how I wanted. She was outside, standing with a man about her age. His hand rested easily on her shoulder, like it had every right to be there. They were laughing about something I couldn't hear. She noticed me before he did. Her expression flickered, barely, but enough. She didn't wave, didn't move, just kept her face arranged in that neutral way I hated. I walked past without stopping. That night, I thought about the scar on her knuckle, the pin tucked in her hair, the way she'd said all the time when I asked about loneliness. It didn't add up to the woman I'd seen outside, laughing with someone who wasn't me. Still, I couldn't shake her voice from my head. "You're making this harder than it should be." Maybe this was her way of ending it without ending it. The following week, I stopped going to the cafe. Stopped taking the long way to the elevators. Stopped giving her the chance to look at me and say nothing. But withdrawal didn't bring relief. It was worse. My phone felt heavy every night, screen lighting up with nothing. I drafted a message. Are you okay? Did I do something? And let it sit unsent. My thumb hovered over send until the screen dimmed. I didn't feel heartbroken. I felt paused, like life forgot to finish the sentence. The strangest part was how quickly routine swallowed it all back up. My mornings became quiet again, only this time it wasn't peace, it was absence. One evening, I found myself outside her office after hours. The light was off, the door locked. I almost knocked anyway, just to hear the hollow sound. But I didn't. I walked away instead, footsteps too loud in the empty hallway. When I got home, the draft was still open on my phone. One sentence blinking back at me. I miss our coffee. I didn't send it. I just left it there. It happened on a Tuesday evening, long after most people had gone home. I'd stayed late finishing reports, my eyes burning from the screen. When I finally left, the building was nearly empty. She was there, sitting on the bench just outside the entrance, coat pulled tight, coffee cup cradled like it still held warmth. She didn't look surprised to see me. Long day? I asked, trying to sound casual. Her shoulders lifted. Every day feels long lately. I sat beside her, careful not to sit too close. The air was cool, carrying the kind of quiet that makes even streetlights seem loud. For a while, we just stared ahead. I noticed her hand tightening around the paper cup, the way her thumb traced circles into the cardboard. She was thinking of something she wasn't saying. Finally, I broke. Did I do something? Her head turned, slow. Why would you think that? Because you disappeared. The words came out sharper than I meant. I softened them. Because I noticed. She let out a breath, not quite a laugh. You weren't supposed to. Silence again. I fiddled with the strap of my bag, not knowing what to do with my hands. Then she said it. That man you saw me with, he's my ex-husband. He needed paperwork signed. Nothing more. I nodded, but the knot in my chest didn't untangle right away. You avoided me, I said. Her eyes dropped. Because I was starting to want something I shouldn't. That was the first time she admitted it. Not directly, not fully, but enough. I felt the weight of every unsent text, every half-swallowed thought. My throat was dry. And if I said I wanted the same? Her gaze met mine, steady but fragile. Then we both lose something. She was right. Reputation. Simplicity. The safety of leaving feelings where they belonged, in silence. But sitting there, the idea of going back to silence felt worse than the risk. I don't care, I said quietly. About the rules. About what people think. Her lips parted, but no sound came. She stared at me like she wanted to believe it, but didn't trust herself to. The moment stretched. A choice hung in the air. Say nothing, and we'd return to our routines. Say too much, and we'd break whatever fragile line we'd been walking. She looked down at her hands, then slowly placed the empty cup on the ground. When she straightened again, her fingers brushed mine on the bench. Just a touch. Barely there. But intentional. I turned my hand slightly, enough that her fingers rested against my skin. No kiss. No grand declarations. Just that. Her eyes lifted, and for the first time, she smiled without holding it back. Small, tired, real. Okay, she whispered. And I let out the breath I'd been holding for months. Time didn't shift all at once. It happened in small, almost invisible ways. The cafe felt different now. Not because of the tables or the chipped mugs, but because she no longer sat at the other end of the room. She sat across from me. Some mornings we spoke, some mornings we didn't. Both felt enough. She still ordered her black coffee, no sugar. I'd started drinking tea on the colder days, something she teased me for. You're too young for tea already. But she'd sip from my cup when she thought I wasn't looking. The bench outside the office became ours too. Some evenings we sat there after work, watching the stream of people pass by. Nothing dramatic, just shoulders brushing lightly, her bag leaning against mine, the quiet sense that the day wasn't finished until we shared that silence. We never announced what we were. Not at work, not anywhere. It wasn't about being hidden. It just wasn't anyone else's to define. I learned things about her slowly, in fragments. The scar on her knuckle came from fixing a window latch herself. She hated her middle name. She collected old thermoses, though she never explained why. She learned things about me too. That I draft messages I'll never send. That I can't stand being in a room with a ticking clock. That I'd stopped believing someone would sit with me through quiet, until she did. Sometimes the age gap was there, sharp in the background. She'd mention music I'd never heard, places she'd lived through that I only knew from history books. But other times, it vanished completely, like when she laughed at my bad jokes, or when she told me I made her mornings lighter. It wasn't perfect. We argued about nothing. Coffee too strong, me forgetting to reply to her texts, her pushing me away when she felt uncertain. But it was real. And the small reconciliations, her hand finding mine on the walk to the station, me remembering her order before she spoke, were the kind of quiet love I hadn't known I wanted. One morning, at 8:47 exactly, I walked into the cafe and saw her already waiting. No files, no coat draped over a chair. Just her, with 2 cups on the table, 1 black coffee, 1 tea. She pushed the tea toward me. No words. Just that look of hers, steady, unhurried. I sat down, the weight in my chest lifting the way it always did when she was there. If someone asked me what changed between us, I wouldn't know how to explain it. It wasn't a single moment, not a confession or a kiss that solved everything. It was accumulation. Folded napkins, brushed fingers, the decision, again and again, to show up. And sitting across from her now, I realized, it wasn't about the coffee or the tea or even the words we managed to say. It was about the silence we no longer carried alone.